Uh, Hello, everybody. I am Vladimir Serbinenko, and here is Maria and Daniel. And we would like to have a short presentation about GRUB. It will be mostly in the form of news bulletin, then what happened like recently, what is our outlook, and a couple of other things. So first thing is that for quite some time I was the only active maintainer of GRUB. At first it was kinda okay because I was a student, quite a lot of free time. But then when I started working, first my thesis, then started working, and it was difficult time managed. For a long time we couldn't find anybody else who would want to become maintainer and simultaneously have the skills for it. And now, fortunately, we have 3 people. So 3 additional people. The first is Andrei, he couldn't come. Then we have Daniel. And we have Alex Burmashev, who also couldn't come. Second thing, we have 202 release going on now. We have already released the 202 release candidate 1. So now we accept only critical patches. We have a separate branch for new features. It's a branch called Next, but it's really not a priority at this point to review new features. So if you send a patch for a new feature right now, and we don't respond timely, it's not because we ignore you, it's because we prioritize getting the release done. And we expect to have the release at the end of February. And we are not aware of any release critical bugs in release candidate 1, but we are all humans, so most likely there are bugs there. Most likely there are release critical bugs, and we need help from you all to find them. So fire up your favorite machine, your favorite problematic machine, and run it and report the bugs. And the 202 release candidate 1 is available as a tarball on that address, and additionally it's also available as a git tag in our repository. What we have new, we have now new supported platforms, especially ARM. For ARM, last release we had nothing. Now we have 3 flavors. We have U-boot flavor, ARM EFI 32-bit EFI. We have 64-bit EFI. There is work in progress for ARM core boot, but it's not in part of the release. It's a separate branch which probably will be merged. So not far from now, but after the release. And we have Xen paravirtualized guests, which is great from security point of view, because this way file system parsing and kernel parsing, everything happens in unprivileged domain, rather than doing it in privileged domain or trying to get the kernel somehow from unprivileged domain to privileged domain. Then we have new multi-boot 2 features. Daniel can speak more about them.
Yeah, it's quite difficult because this is quite a long story and difficult. So I was working on Zen at the beginning, and when EFI appeared on the scene on many machines, Jan Bulik added EFI support for Zen, but it was simply a simple PE application, and configuration for Zen was passed in a special separate TXT file. So it means that it was quite difficult for developers to change configuration during boot, and GRUB2 allows you to edit configuration, just changes in the menu or something like that. So many people asked for support, direct support, and to have a chance load Zen from GRUB 2. So I started working on that, and I quickly realized that we need a new protocol, which is currently called Multiboot 2. Yeah, I know, it happens. So I took a look at it. It was in GRUB available, but unfortunately there were two important features missing. One thing was that Multiboot 2 was prepared for BIOS platforms. So it doesn't knew anything about EFI, and also it wasn't able to pass EFI information, EFI boot services function to operating system. So we needed to add special options to pass this information from EFI directly to the OS. Another thing which we met is related to allocation of memory on EFI platforms. Many platforms use low memory, very low memory regions to store runtime services, boot services, and it means we cannot load, for example, Zen image in a given region because in Zen this region is strictly specified in the header. So we found out how to do that. We added support for self-relocatable images. Unfortunately, we haven't time to add support for ELF relocs yet, but the framework which is there allows that. So currently, the working example of this feature is available on Zendevel mailing list, and I suppose that whole working solution will be available in Zen upstream. So that's it. Thank you.
And of course, we have added plenty of fixes. And then a couple of future plans and ideas. We have already the test framework for GRUB that we use for every release, but the problem that some of the tests require root. They're basically FS tests. They create a file system image using Linux and then try to read it using GRUB. We would like to make it work without root. Then we want to have some kind of automatic system which would regularly check GRUB tree so we can find bugs quicker. We work on kernel verification, which will be the next slide. And of course, it's community project. So it's driven by the contributors. This includes all of you, everybody who wants to participate. For kernel verifications, there is now a lot of push to have some kind of ways to verify that the kernel is what you expect it to be. There are different ways of doing it. They're all backed up by different political groups. They have different purposes and so on. And the problem is that we have at least 3 different incompatible patch sets already available. GPG signatures, TPM, and EFI secure boot via shim. So the first one is already upstreamed, but the second and the third one, I adjust a patch on my mailing list, and they're not compatible between each other as far as I'm aware. So the idea is that after the release, I have a separate branch which adds a framework for verifiers and allows all the verifiers to peacefully coexist. And now Maria will speak more about GRUB mascot.
Hello, everyone. I would like to introduce a new beta version of GRUB mascot. When I started to contribute to the project, I realized that this well-known project has 2 logos already, but no one knows it. And I discussed this issue with the maintainers, and they agree that we need something new and easy noticeable. So we decided to make some nice looking mascot. In my personal opinion, animal mascots are the best solution because they're really easy noticeable and eye-catching. Of course, everyone here, I suppose, knows the Linux Tux penguin, and he was a kind of inspiration for me. After the discussion with maintainers, we decided that the crab would be nice. And I started drawing with this hand drawing. The main idea was a crab running, launching the balloon like operation system. There were some versions. Then we made it better in 2D. Then we tried to do it in 3D. And that's the final version right now. But it's now in a beta testing stage. We found already a bug because many people suppose that's a GRUB OS some way, and I see that we should do something with that. That's not a GRUB OS, it's a pure GRUB. I am a software engineer. I'm not a designer by my primary education, So if you have some suggestions or would like to add something, feel free to contact me. I'm not pretty sure should we do it in the GRUB developer mailing list or separately. So now just please send me a personal message. I would really appreciate your help and waiting for your suggestions. Also, I would like to inform you that we are going to have a face-to-face meeting with maintainers today at 8 p.m. in Gem Hotel Rooftop Bar. It's not about drinking, not totally about drinking. It's more about discussing new features, about GRUB development and so on. So if you would like to ask something, ask some questions, say something about the GRUB, about the mask and so on, feel free to join us. Of course, everyone pays for himself or herself. If no one will come there, we will leave at 9 p.m. And if you need some further information, you can ask me as well. You can see here my email, and you can ping me in Hangouts using this email. If you want to join, just take a photo of it. And we are waiting for you. Thanks a lot for your attention. And we are waiting for your questions.
Yes?
Where is the support of NVMe? How do you support NVMe?
The question was how we support NVMe. This depends on the platform. First of all, if you use EFI or BIOS and either of them already supports NVMe, then GRUB will just use them. GRUB does not currently have its own NVMe drivers, whereas we have some own ATA and SATA drivers, but they're not used by default because they would conflict with BIOS or EFI. They're used by default on core boot. On BIOS, you can use own drivers for GRUB, but currently there is nothing for NVMe, but it's basically patches are welcome, and my experience shows that drivers for GRUB are actually much easier to write than drivers for fully fledged operating system. So right now we support it only if firmware supports it. Yeah. For touch screen, it's not currently supported, but we have all the underlying things that we need. We have have USB support. We have the support for graphical menu. From there, it would actually be pretty easy to write touchscreen support. So if somebody wants to write it, just drop me an email and I can give some guidance.
Thank you very much, Vladimir, Maria, and Daniel.
No problem.